Hi, I'm doing this video for all of the truthers, in the world, and because I was a truther, at one point, or one who went down rabbit holes and believed in all the conspiracies, that which the mainstream media labels conspiracists and conspiracy nuts and all these other cute labels they try to put on us, those of us who care about the truth and try to warn others that this global system is broken, and there is an end, there is an end that these world rulers have in mind. And there's an alternate ending. And if you're like me and you've pretty much gone down every rabbit hole, and you've realized that all of our religious leaders are not speaking the word of truth and corrupting the word of truth, and you realize that our governments are working hand in hand with a corporate corrupt media, and they're working hand in hand with Hollywood and all of our academic institutions, just pushing lies. A lot of you have probably come to the realization that the moon landing was hoaxed. Anyway, after you go down all these trails, I imagine that you kind of ended up like me, or at a place that I was at, where I just, at the end of the day, I just sat there stumped, because I couldn't understand why the insatiable greed, why the insatiable, bloodlust, why, is our air poisoned? They talk about green and yet continue to poison. Why is our water all poisoned? Why is our allopathic Western mainstream medicine toxic? Why? Does it really come down to just greed, just blind, insatiable greed, or is there something more? And so that's what I want to declare to you guys, is after I had been stuck at that why for several years, because I never would look at the spiritual aspect of the nature of the corruption that we see in the world. If it tasted of any kind of religion, I simply wouldn't entertain it. And I read books by the Dalai Lama and various Buddhist publications, and I read Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, and I never really dabbled in any of these, but I would read, and still nothing offered any viable answers. And even when I read the Jefferson Bible, which was published posthumously by one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, in which he cut out all of the teachings of Jesus Christ and compiled them in a book, and he just he didn't include any of the miracles of Christ, the multiplication of food and healing the sick and lame and raising the dead, that kind of stuff. But he published all the teachings of Christ, and I read that, and it's called the Jefferson Bible. And when I read that, it resonated with me, because I could see that those teachings of Christ exceeded anything else that I had read. But, I still didn't believe in God. I considered Jesus to be just a man. And that was it. Mormons would knock on the door, or Jehovah's Witnesses would knock on the door, and I'd go out. I follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and I'd close the door. So long before I even, a couple years before I came to know the truth, I was already advocating the teachings of Christ, even though I didn't know him as God in the flesh, our very Creator, come in the flesh humbly among us as a man, out of love, to teach us how to save our mortal souls. And that's kind of a key point. We are simply an avatar. When we look in the mirror, we're just looking at our avatar. We're not looking at what we really are, which is a created soul. So if you analyze it and break it down, you can see that our genetics, it's just a biological, digital, self-replicating code of how to assemble an avatar out of the very elements found in common dirt. And when this avatar passes away, the cords that bind your soul, which is what you really are, is a living soul, and our eyes are designed not to be able to see this. We can't see in the spiritual realm yet. When you pass away, those cords are broken and your soul is released. And once that happens, your choice as to what happens and where you go is no longer yours to make. And I would encourage you guys to watch 50 or 100 after death experiences. Oftentimes these people are slabbed out for 10 minutes to an hour, some even longer, and they come back with certain experiences which are horribly corrupt. Mainstream science tries to pigeonhole into some kind of mass hallucination. But when you listen to these people's testimony, those who don't know the truth, find themselves hovering over their dead body. And they realize, well, if that's me down there, who am I? And it starts to dawn on them that, ruh-roh, right? If I'm me, what's that, hunk of flesh laying there dead? And they can hear everything the doctors and nurses are saying, what their family members are doing. And, and then usually one of two things happens. Darkness comes, or light comes. And, if they make it back to their bodies, it's by the grace of our Creator. And he'll tell them, it's not your time. You're going to go back, and you're going to witness to people what happened, what you've seen, what the Lord said. So, essentially, what happened to me was, after reading the Jefferson Bible, I was advocating, Jesus Christ without even knowing who he was. That he was our very creator, sent from one even greater than himself, being his Father. And, these guys are not human. And if you're a truther who's arrived at the flat earth truth, and you want your flat earth truth without the creator of our dome enclosed structure, please, read the New Testament of Jesus Christ. It is the truth that will completely free you from this matrix, that we're trapped in. The Matrix was a documentary. I know that sounds cute, but it really does kind of present an accurate depiction of what's going on here. They've the powers that be, secret societies that run this world have indeed taken control of all the reins of power down here. All of our media, all of academia, all the governments. They're all working together to keep your mind in this nice, neat little box. And, the end of all their effort is to, hide the nature of the created structure that we live in, to hide the creator of the structure we live in, to the end that we get on our knees and accept the New World Order, which is going to be presented as peace and safety, and this mark is for your own good, which will allow you to buy and sell. And if you don't have this mark, you will not be allowed to buy and sell. So, keep these words in mind. If you deny that mark, know that you're denying it for your creator, and that it's a death sentence, essentially, because you won't be able to buy or breakfast. You won't be able to buy or sell anything without this mark. And I can proclaim that boldly because it's written. The Bible is the Bible is a bestseller for 2,000 years for a reason. Because when our God, who tells you, I'm not human, and my ways are above your ways, my ways are much higher than your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts, he's a consuming fire. He's not human. This is, pure energy, pure spirit, and pure love. But his judgment is true, and it's righteous, and it's coming. When Jesus was hung on the cross, the ruler of this world was judged. And that's Satan, by the way. He is the current ruler of this world. Has been. And this is why the insatiable greed, the insatiable hatred between men, the insatiable bloodlust, the insatiable corruption of everything that's good and true and merciful and and kind and loving in the world. So I don't want to make this a grand production, but do pick up the New Testament of Jesus Christ. You've really got nothing to lose. And if you're at that point where you're dead-ended like I was, and you just can't figure out, how can we be so lost, in this age of what we consider advancement? Why are we spending billions of dollars, exploring space when we've still got so many people starving to death? Right? We're not going anywhere, you guys. Do research the flat dome enclosed biodome clock that we live inside of. The sun and moon are the hands of the giant biodome clock that we all inhabit. It's our shared space. And even Bill Nye, who speaks with a forked tongue, he looked right into the camera and he said, one thing I really want you guys to understand is that this is an enclosed system, right? And then the next sentence is, we're going to Mars or whatever. We've never walked on the moon. If you haven't looked into, NASA, which means to deceive in Hebrew, and the hoaxed moon landings, do look into that. These guys are sucking up, billions and billions of our tax dollars, while we've got, homeless being oppressed in the streets, and 10% or more of the world population is below the most grinding poverty. So anyway, Jesus really is the answer. The entire biblical account of history is accurate, historically, and more importantly, prophetically. That's why God tells you, look, he says, behold, I've told you the ending right from the beginning. And we're just without excuse. His works are self-evident, and we try to sweep that under the carpet with stories of theories. Stories taught as fact, which are theories of a big bang with no evidence and no proof. And evolution, again, with no evidence and no proof. And we're taught these things as fact, when in fact it's nothing more than the reasoning of men. And that's what Adam and Eve did right in the beginning, is they knew what the Lord said, and they reasoned within their own mind what's good and right and true. Right? That's what Eve said. She noticed that the forbidden fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, she noticed that to her it smelled good, and it looked good, and it tasted good. They reasoned in their own limited human capacity, and this is what the result has been. When you look at the world now, this is the result of being separated from living according to God's laws, which essentially, distilled down, is just simply living with the mindset of putting others' well-being before yourself, living in a spirit of outflowing love. That's it. And that's what he requires. That's what our righteous God requires, is that we do justice, and that we love mercy, and that we walk humbly before our Creator. This life was given to us, and this mortal soul, our mortal souls, were preserved by the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. So that's it. Truthers, agnostic truthers, atheist truthers, Buddhist truthers, you know, if you love the truth and you go after it without bias, you'll end up at Jesus Christ. You know, I don't want to beg, but please, you know, please pick up a copy of the New Testament and read it. Earnestly read it with a mindset to understand, and you may come away quite surprised. And, you know, when the Spirit of our Creator comes upon you, you'll know it. You'll know you've entered into something completely new and different, and you'll feel the change in your heart and mind, and you'll be looking at the world with a new set of eyes. So that's my testimony, and you know, from the bottom of my heart, I truly hope that even one person who watches this, just one, takes this to heart, and you can see that I'm speaking the truth from the heart. You know, not to make myself look good. You know, I'm not getting any bonus here. You know, making myself look like a fool, you know, via the World Wide Web. You know, I endure ridicule for these things, but it's worth it, because I know how valuable your soul is to the Creator of your soul. So that's it, you know. I hope these words don't fall on all deaf ears. You know, I hope that even one person will take these words seriously. There truly are eternal consequences to what we do while we're animating this flesh. Okay, that's it. That's all I got. You know, may the Lord bless your understanding and open your eyes and open your ears, that you may understand with your heart. And okay, thanks for watching.